Oh, man. Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. 4 years ago, nearly to the day, our next guest unknowingly created one of the most popular cooking shows in all of YouTube. Combining his love for film and TV with a passion for unique eats, his videos struck a deep chord with the internet and spread like crazy. Now, with billions of hours consumed, over 6 million subscribers, a new book, so much going on. I'm stoked to chat with the man himself. Please welcome host of Binging with Babish, the great Andrew Ray is here. Come on, do it up.
Hey, man. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much for being here, man. Congratulations. And yeah, I wrote down the name of the Reddit user who pointed it out. T Mater Show brought it up.
Yeah.
4 years to the day, just about. It was Monday, I believe, was the proper
I forgot that Monday was my anniversary.
It happens.
The Babishversary.
The Babishversary.
Yeah.
That is insane. Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you so much.
That is an entire high school career right there. 4 years.
I had to make up for my high school career because I didn't do very well. So, yeah.
I think you've exceeded expectations at this
you.
point. Yeah. How are you doing, man? How is life? So many great things going on right now.
It's crazy, man. I never. That's the why I was so keen on celebrating this anniversary once I found out that it was happening. I never expected my life to become like this. I think that's the story of any given YouTuber, is that they never expected this. Most of the shows that you've seen on YouTube, it's somebody that's passionate about something that that loves it so much they wanted to share it. They had to share it. They had to talk about it, and they never expected that to become their career and why people stop them on the street, say hello, and take a picture. It's never a life that I ever imagined for myself. And if you ask any of my high school classmates, they'll tell you that they never imagined for me either. So.
Pretty insane, man. And I love we get in the book we get a little bit of that backstory. You tell a lot of the details that led up to that moment. And I love how serendipitous it all kind of was. Like the reason you did the Traeger sandwich is just because that's what you put on in the background. That's what you had on. It was there.
I'm a big background watcher. I put on TV shows like most people listen to music. Just on in the background and just repeatedly. I can tell you that I have seen any given episode of Frasier at least 9 times. Amazing. And I'm not exaggerating. I've counted.
And I was curious about this. In that moment in your life when you did that, you were in the Parks and Rec sort of zone. I imagine that was not your first rewatch. That was not your first cycle through.
Yeah, probably the third at that point.
Okay, so you got Parks and Rec, you've got Frasier. Basically, what I'm trying to figure out is what the alternate universe version of Binging with Babish, like what you made instead of the Traeger sandwich. Like, if you were watching Frasier, maybe there's like tossed salad and scrambled eggs. I don't know, like what would be like the other timeline?
Maybe Gah from Star Trek Next Generation? I don't know. That's interesting. Alternate universe implies that I wouldn't be watching the shows that I'm watching. So in that case, I'm watching, let's see, Gossip Girl, I guess. Was it good food from Gossip Girl?
That's true. Well, there's infinite permutations, right? It could be radically different, or it could just be adjacent. It could just be another show, just somewhere slightly different in the cycle.
That's true. I never really thought about it. You're blowing my mind right now. Yeah.
This is the next 20 minutes of this conversation.
It's just existential.
We're going to get into string theory as well in a little bit, and we're just going to get real deep on this. Well, no, it's just a cool thought. But, talk to me about really the decision to include all of those details, not just, the shows you were watching, but what you were going through and putting that in the book and kind of being vulnerable and sharing your story.
Yeah, I mean, people have always seemed to be very invested in what happens behind the camera. They've always been very curious about just what my day-to-day life is like, or what my background is. I think if you type in Google is Babish and just let it autocomplete, the top questions are: is he married? Is he? One of my favorite ones is Babish a good chef? And I'm like, yeah, ish. Yeah. And people have always been very curious about that. And also, what was so exciting to me was that not only were people getting encouragement to try out new things in the kitchen and get in the kitchen in the first place, but also to just generally step outside of their comfort zones. The show is my saga of stepping outside of my comfort zone. I was very much sort of boxing myself in and not making things, not trying new hobbies or endeavors and pursuits. and it was killing me slowly. And I had a big, if you reading the book, I don't want to spoil, no spoilers. I had a big sort of catastrophic moment where I decided to just burn everything down and start fresh, not literally. And here we are talking about it.
Yeah, you mentioned there was this is not catastrophic at the same level, but the brunch gone wrong for your friends. You had like quail eggs or whatever, and just like you were really experimental, but didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
Where do you think that kind of fearlessness in the kitchen comes from? Like before you were doing any of this, you were I'm going to make quail eggs for my hungover friends. Said no one ever. So like, where does that come from? That fire?
Blind ignorance. Just who makes that for the friend? I didn't make that. They didn't enjoy it. That's the key part of that story, is that was my, cold shower of like, holy shit, I'm not a good cook and people don't like eating my food. So that was a wake up moment for me. So that confidence came from, the blissful ignorance that nobody, of not knowing that nobody liked my food. So for those who haven't read the book, the idea is that I had some friends in from out of town. I said, I'm going to make you guys the hangover breakfast of your dreams. They wake up, and I got crostini with sous vide quail eggs and shaved asparagus and truffle oil. And they, like, choke one or two down, and they're like, is there a diner nearby? And that was, then we're having, like, chilaquiles and beers and burritos, and I'm just like, this is the kind of food people wants. They don't want to be challenged, and I mean, some people do, but not when you come over to my house, not when you're having a dinner party or hangover breakfast.
Contextually, that's a weird meal to wake up to.
Sure. Yeah. No, but I like to equate it to when you listen to classical music, you like to imagine that you're a conductor and you're going like this and like, oh, I could do this, and then just go ahead and try doing that. Go try to conduct an orchestra, see what happens. So I was the same way about food. I was like, huh, I can do this, and then all of a sudden I try it and I'm like, oh no, I'm terrible at this. This takes practice.
So then that begs the question of, was there a point, because you were just messing around, you making the Traeger sandwich, you throwing this out there, no expectation of what this is going to be or how big it'll become. Was there a number of followers at a certain point where you felt a responsibility and you're like, oh crap, I better go take a class or something? There are a lot of people watching me do this.
Actually, no. There was that thought did cross my mind, but then I realized that people were learning along with me. That this isn't necessarily, I'm not necessarily an authority on how to cook. I'm an authority on how to, learn how to cook maybe. But so that's why I'm keen on showing my mistakes on the show, because I want people to see not only is it okay to make mistakes in the kitchen, but they're learning opportunities. I'm going to show you what I did wrong and how I gathered, what to do right from what I did wrong. So I think that that can be empowering as a new cook, because we're so used to seeing beautiful people in their beautiful kitchens making beautiful food on their first try for their beautiful spouse and their beautiful dog. And that's not what cooking is like for most people. It's just getting in the kitchen, making an absolute mess, and it not coming out quite the way you expected. And that's okay. Like that's one of the very exciting things about cooking, is trying it again and seeing it come out the way that you imagined or better.
And that's actually one of the great parts about the book, too, is that you go through everything and you go, for the record, this was the one that you see online. That was my 4th attempt at doing this, or like my 5th time that I had to go through, or I broke 3 waffle irons to make this. Like, you tell all of those details and stories throughout the book.
Also, Publishers Weekly said that this was one of the few cookbooks that you'll ever read that tells you when the recipes aren't good. It's very few cookbooks are like, don't make this one. This is a bad idea.
Well, it's so funny. We were going through it last night, and immediately, I think, and this happens with everyone that I show the book, they go, ooh, Buddy's pasta. Like, everyone sees it, and, like, conceptually, that's a really awesome idea. But, like, you get down to your verdict, and it's like, this is gross. Don't do this.
Is it an awesome idea conceptually?
I mean, like, there's a lot of things that
chocolate
individually
syrup and
bring joy.
Pop-Tarts. Yeah.
Pasta, joy. Sugar, joy.
Sure.
So you think, oh, all right, sure, why not?
But, like Big Mac, ice cream. I don't know if I'd mix those together.
If you are going to suggest that you wouldn't try Big Mac ice cream, you are a bold-faced liar. We would try it.
What am I doing?
Doesn't mean to be good.
I saw it on Reddit this morning or something. It's fresh in the mind. So clearly, I want to try it. I'm still thinking about it. That's the next episode of the show.
I think it is. And now, are you at that point where you are now informing the thing? This is technically, we're on a show. We have just discussed an item of food that now informs your show. Like, has the snake started to eat its own tail? Have you gotten to that point yet?
I think that would No, not quite yet.
Still things out there to cook. And
yeah. Oh, I mean, there's so many things. Happily, I'd say 95% of the ideas for the show from commenters, from people shouting out and saying what they want to see on the show, and that's one of the best parts about it. People will come to me all the time and say, like, how did you come up with such an amazing idea that feeds itself, that constantly has new material being brought to it, and also brings new audience members with every episode because you're tackling a new subject from pop culture, and also has food. And like, how did you mastermind this? I was like, oh, it was a total accident. I'm not like, I was like, I wish it was, I was some sort of marketing genius or something. But the fact is that I was watching TV and there was a burger and I was like, let's make that. And yeah, so
and that's the brilliance of it. And I think part of that, there's an authenticity to it. Like, that's very clear that you're just kind of going along for the same ride that we are when we watch these videos. And I think that's part of why they're so much fun to watch, is because we feel a part of that journey.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'd say any given dish you're seeing me make on the show, I'm making for the first time. I always roll just in case it comes out right, and if it doesn't, then I want to show you why it didn't.
Biggest failure. Has there one you've attempted that we haven't seen, that it went so wrong, so catastrophically off the rails, you didn't even put it online?
Happily, that actually hasn't happened yet. The only time that has, there we go. Happily, that hasn't happened yet, with one exception, which was not even because the food went terribly wrong. I was recreating a bunch of foods from Frasier, and there was so much food that I was like, I should have a dinner party, and then people can eat the food once I'm done shooting. And people came over well before I was done filming, got wildly drunk, and one of my friends took over the camera, thought that he should do the camera work, and the stabilizer was not turned on in the lens, so it ends up, all the final shots are just like, just earthquake style. And I was like, this isn't good food TV. So I had to kill that one. But happily, that was back when I was just doing this as a hobby, and I wasn't putting it out every week, because that would have really thrown a wrench in the works.
What was it like when it switched? When it stopped being a hobby and you're like, oh, this is a job now? Was there ever a number on the way, because we're at well over 6 million now? Was there ever a number that was scary? You're like, wow, that's a lot of people.
I don't know if there was ever a number that was scary, because it did happen very quickly, but also relatively gradually. It's been kind of linear. So, it's not like I had, like some YouTubers, where they had 0 subscribers one day and then 5 million the next because they had a video that went crazily viral. I just had a string of videos that went kind of viral, and yeah. So I got warmed up to it, because something like this, what we're doing right now, I can tell you with confidence, it would not be possible for me to do 4 years ago when I started the show. I didn't have I wasn't extroverted enough. I wasn't conversational enough. I wasn't socially adjusted enough. So, just like cooking, all things with practice, and all things by gradually stepping outside of your comfort zone.
What do you think it is about the process of creating this show that's gotten you to this point that you can do stupid stuff like this and answer questions from an idiot like me? Like, why is that? Because you wouldn't assume that they're transferable skills. You're kind of doing your own thing. You're in your kitchen and you're making all these dishes. And now, 4 years later, to be someone who couldn't sit in public and do this and now can, what do you think it is that got you here?
I guess it's the fact that I was able to be my fullest and most genuine self on the show. I was being kind of eye roll goofy, and just like groaning dad joke kind of stuff, and talking passionately about what I was passionate about, and people were listening and receptive to it, and it showed me that I have something to say and people want to hear it. So it over time, like I said, just gradual growth over time.
Yeah, talking about stuff that you probably wouldn't have done 4 years ago, talk to me about making this book. Everybody I've talked to that's ever made a book, cooking book, or whatever book, with just making a book, not an easy thing to do.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing it, though. I mean, I also had an unfair advantage, which is that this is the first 100 recipes from the show.
There you go.
So 100 recipes kind of done. I just had to sort of watch the videos again and be like, oh, yeah, I did that, and write it down.
Yeah, did you have, like, logs? You weren't, like, journaling the process outside of the videos, right? So that's it. So you literally had to go back, watch your stuff.
What was good about it was that I got to go back and, see what I did wrong. because I've learned a lot over the past 4 years. And so when I saw these recipes, I was able to be like, oh, why did I do that? That wouldn't make the steak brown properly or whatever. And I was able to do a little bit of revisionist history in my book. So the recipes have been tweaked a little bit since the show, but the spirit remains the same.
What was it like first time you said like a whole stack of them all done, big old pile of books that you made?
That was wild.
Yeah.
So I have a book that I did before this one, but it was more of a coffee table book. It was more of a conversation piece. It was
The cover was really clever on that one.
very
Film
clever.
reel with the
I'm not
pizza
even going to
slice.
take credit for that. That was the publisher's idea.
It was good.
It was good. It was good. And also the photography is a lot of fun. We worked to recreate the actual scenes from the movies without really showing faces, just making the vibe and color and decoration and all that stuff. And but it wasn't as intensive a cooking resource. It was, and at the heart of Binging with Babish has always been technique. Even in the Elf pasta video, which is a video about mixing spaghetti with Pop-Tarts, there's still technique in that episode. I show you how to sauce up pasta properly. I want the show to have as much utility as it has entertainment. So that's why I wanted this book to have as well. And so it was a much more intense writing process because I wanted to get into the how and why a bit. I'm going to get way deeper into the how and why in the next book, which is the Basics with Babish Cookbook, which is going to be, just straight up technique, no movies or TV shows involved. Yeah, so it was kind of a crazy process. We shot all the photography in my apartment. We set up a little studio right in the corner. We had test cooks come in, and we knocked the whole thing, all the photography out in 7 days. So it was like 8-9 recipes a day. It was out of control. So and it was just all in my house. It's a very unique thing that is appropriately born of its YouTube heritage. It's something that, yes, it was made with a major publisher, but we kind of bootstrapped it. We kind of made it all in my apartment, and it follows the spirit of the show in many ways.
One of the things I was looking at that I was kind of fascinated by is that of like your top 10 most watched all-time videos, 9 of them were from animation and cartoons.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I think many reasons for that. I don't know if that was your question. I'm sorry. Just jumping.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, you picked on the head. Why?
There we go.
I imagine you have access to the data, right? So that's like the path I'm kind of heading down now. Is like as a YouTuber, you have access to mountains of data, and it's just I only have the little bit that I have as an end user, and I can see plainly that millions and millions and millions of views, and the top 10. Majority of them are animated. So, like, what's your take on that? What do you think?
I would say that the data actually does not help me point to why. I think it's really just knowing what my audience likes, and also just knowing the fact that food, when shown in animated format, is a little bit more alluring because it's absolutely fictional. You see something tasty on screen that's been filmed. There's an allure to it. There's a mystery to it. There's a curiosity about it. But animated food, especially because you can express it in these wild and insane ways that you couldn't necessarily do in real life.
My wife and I always talk about the pizza from All Dogs Go to Heaven. If anyone, that's a real narrow reference. But if anyone knows what we're talking about, it is like it is the cheese and all that stuff. It's
I'm gonna
beautiful.
keep an eye out for that one.
You gotta look for that one.
For that one.
Yeah.
But 2 years from now, I'm gonna be like, All Dogs Go to Heaven.
There we go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've done pizza 10 times at this point, but
You've done a lot of pizza, yeah.
Yeah. Animated stuff. It awakens the curiosity in a way that I don't think anything from just straight up movies or films stuff can do.
Who's your white whale? You've had a couple of awesome guests come through and cook and hang out with you. Who's the one that you would get above all? I'd love to have X.
It's probably going to surprise you. I want Ben Sinclair to come on my show from High Maintenance. Like, first off, his character is like my religion. Okay. He's like, the guy is the single chillest, most roll with the punches dude in the world. And Ben Sinclair describes him as like the amalgamation of all of his most ideal parts. So it is a piece of him, and I need to meet him in person and touch his beard. And there's some great food in High Maintenance that warrants recreation. Chocolate cardamom space cake in particular. We probably have to just use some butter with some green food coloring or something like that in lieu of actual. I'm trying to get sponsorships here. Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to go over to audience in just a second because we got a bunch of questions out there and I want to make sure we get all of them. But I also wanted to ask, I really have been enjoying being with Babish.
Thank you.
And watching your sub-series here as well, the new show, and just watching you kind of give back and do all these cool things sort of outside the kitchen. Where did the idea for being with Babish come from?
It really came from an Instagram post where I was posing with a gun. I know that's odd. It's not what you probably expected when it's about this show about
I'm
giving
enjoying
back
all these
and
wild left turns. Keep.
It just sort of so I posted a picture on Instagram on my birthday where I was like, it's my birthday and I'll breach and clear if I want to, and people, it was the most liked post I had of all time, and it was just because people, you know, again, liked a glimpse behind the curtain, see what I was doing in my day-to-day life. That's what my whole Instagram is just like, you know, what I'm eating, what I'm doing. And people really seem to enjoy that. So I was like, you know, maybe people will respond positively to a vlog format. And I didn't want it to just be any vlog. I wanted it to have some altruistic nature to it. I wanted it to be an opportunity to give back. I think there's so many great YouTubers that are doing that, Mr. Beast in particular, who they're using their platform to create entertainment that also gives back either to their audience, to their friends, or to people who need it. And I thought that was such a great model that I wanted to borrow something from it and make it into something my own, which is finding people, audience members or my family or anybody that I know that needs something or deserves something, and just giving it to them as a way to say thank you for everything that you've given me. Like, my life has changed unimaginably because of you guys, because of people who watch the show and support the show. So it's almost like the least I can do, but I wanted to make something entertaining and hopefully maybe something. I was about to say inspiring. What a douchebag.
Well, I'll say it for you, though. Like, honestly, it is inspiring in a way to see that. And it's always nice, especially if you've watched someone for a long time and you've watched them rise and achieve this level of success. It's just really cool and kind of like this affirmation and a self-serving way of like, I was right to follow this person. They're good. They're giving back. Like, you know, I'll sound like a douchebag. As someone watching it at home, it's this thing that makes you feel good that this person's good. It's just this is all good stuff, man. You're doing good things. It's fun to watch, and it's all about love.
Thank you very much. And yeah, being is a lot of fun to make. It takes the most work and the most time and the most money to make of all the shows, and it probably gets the least viewership, ironically. But it's our baby. It's our passion project. And the one thing we have to get better with in season 2 is surprising people, because that's the one thing that I'm bullshit at, is surprising people. Every single time I've tried to sneak up on people, the only response I've gotten is confusion, because we don't know what we're doing, really. We're not good at this reality TV stuff. We'll get there.
We're watching you learn. That's it.
Exactly.
I got 4 questions in the room. The first one is from Natalie. Natalie, you have a microphone, and you are coming on down. What's
right
up?
Here.
Hi.
Hi. So you've tackled so many recipes, or I guess non-recipes, dishes that don't have recipes. Does anything traditional intimidate you? I know, besides quail eggs, are there any recipes like in the canon of traditional dishes that you haven't tackled?
I'm trying to think of it. Mostly it's going to be regional dishes. Most things from Southeast Asian cuisine I have very little grasp of how to make properly, and I want to really know how to do that before I attempt to make a resource on how to make it. But probably one of the more intimidating dishes that I had to tackle was it was what's called apple strudel from Inglourious Bastards. That we're talking about a very old Austrian recipe with some people that are going to be very passionate about how it's supposed to be made. And I didn't want to mess that up, so I read endless blogs with people posting their grandmother's, their Oma's recipe, and you know, I really wanted to try to do that service. So if I'm going to make something like that, then I'm going to do my research. Upcoming is Ramdan from Parasite, and even though that's made with instant noodles, I saw you just get excited. You just just touched your friend's leg. Oh, you did? Okay. Well, thank you. No, it definitely comes. I have all the noodles and everything, and even though it's just instant noodles, it not only is it's a point of regional pride, but also as a comfort food, but also it's a symbolic food in the film. It's depicting the class separation in the film. So I really got to do this right, and also just figure out what spin I can put on it, because otherwise it's just instant noodles with steak on it. And you know me, I like to make the Babish version. And before I saw the movie, I was like, oh, okay, I'll do the usual thing. I heard about this Ramdan. I'll make it with the box noodles, and then I'll make a fancy version. Then I saw the movie. I was like, that's not appropriate. Mustn't do that. I was thinking I'd do the opposite, where like I'll make fancy noodles and keep beef cheap or something like that, where I'll make handmade noodles and then, so that way we still have the symbolic nature of the dish, but backwards.
Sweet.
So
Thank
anyway,
you.
that's a long answer to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go to the next one in a second, but how long is the prep process for each video? You talk about just the amount of thought that goes into just this one.
I mean, it really depends. When I have the opportunity to give it as much thought as possible, I try. When it comes to things like, what's it called? Sichuan sauce from Rick and Morty. Yeah, where that came out on a Sunday and my show comes out on a Tuesday, so I have 2 days to figure it out. And I was just like, it's sauce. How hard could it be? And then, I'm trying to figure out what was this McDonald's sauce inspired by? Was it inspired by any aspect of actual Szechuan cuisine, or were they just mixing together sweet and sour sauce and ketchup and calling it Szechuan sauce or some bullshit like that? So when I can, I try to put in the effort, especially when it's something regional. I'm not trying to make an entire area or country of people mad at me for fucking up their dish.
We got another question coming to us from Bianca. Bianca, you are right over here. Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Big fan. I'm well.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question was, how far in advance do you plan, like once you see an inspiration from the YouTube comments or Reddit, and it's like, yes, that's going to be one on the roster, like how far in advance do you plan that and juggle that with basics with Babish or being with Babish?
A lot more planning goes into basics and being. Basics is all shot 1 week at a time every quarter. We'll shoot about 10 recipes. We try to shoot 10 recipes and then inevitably end up shooting 7 or 8. So that's all marathon shot. There's a lot of preparation that has to go into that to get the surprises that don't work. And binging is very much by the seat of my pants. Example, today is Thursday. Next episode comes out Tuesday. I haven't filmed it. I'm not entirely sure what it is yet. It's probably going to be Ramadan, but I just hit 6 million subscribers, and I like to do a big episode. In fact, let's do a vote today. I'm going to do exactly what you guys tell me to do. Show of hands. Next episode, should I do Ramadan from Parasite or make a 6 million subscriber special, which would be the dinner that Chef Carl Casper makes for himself from the movie Chef. So show of hands, Ramadan from Parasite.
Votes for Ramadan. We've got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not actually counting. It just looks like more than half the room for sure. And then the
Chef
meal
for
from
6
Chef.
million.
Show of hands. We got a winner. Okay.
Well, don't you worry. One day it will happen. All right.
All right. That means that makes my job a whole lot easier. I got the noodles at home. I'm just gonna hit up. Yeah.
Got the noodles at home.
Yeah.
What more do you need? All right. We've got another question coming to us from Lisa. Lisa, you've got a microphone, and you are.
Do you have a restaurant? And what made you start cooking?
Did you say, do I have a restaurant?
Do you have a restaurant, and what made you start cooking?
So I don't have a restaurant yet. I'm hoping to get one soon. Get one of those pesky restaurants. We're actually making efforts to open a brew pub in Brooklyn, where we'd partner with a brewery as yet undetermined and make some special in-house brews. And also I would make the show there, so you can come and have a beer. And you can watch me make the show, almost like it's like Good Morning America meets a bar, kind of. And also, we'd serve select foods from the show, so like whatever top few dishes are that might be handy little bar snacks. So we're working on that. And what got me into cooking was probably my mom. She taught me to make Nestle Toll House and some simple stuff when I was very, very young. She passed away when I was 11, so it's a nice way to sort of feel closer to her and honor her. That's one great thing about cooking, is that it's a great way to leave a legacy and leave an impression with the people that you love, because it makes you very close to them, and it makes when you eat something after they're gone that they used to make for you or that reminds you of them, it's a sense memory that just kicks you back in time and makes you feel very close to them.
Very, very cool. So for real, Brooklyn, huh? You guys are gonna.
That's the hope.
That's the hope.
Investors, hit me up.
There we are. Okay, that's what we're
watching?
looking for. We got one more question from Quentin. Quentin, you've got a microphone, so let's hear it. Go for it, man.
Hi, my name is Quentin Benjamin.
Quentin.
I'm here. I would like to ask you a question. I would like to ask, how did you hone your cooking skills, and how did you kept up with the trends throughout the years on your YouTube channel?
Did you say how did I hone my cooking skills?
Hone.
Okay.
Hone your your skills?
How did I hone
Keep
them?
up with trends?
So, how did I hone my cooking skills? Just like I was saying before, I mean, unfortunately, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. You know, it's just like to become halfway decent at anything, you got to just practice, and that's really what I did. I gave myself to cooking. I embraced mistakes. That's the biggest thing. If I made a mistake, I try to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I learn from this experience? How can I make sure that I do better next time? And embracing that instead of beating myself up for it. That's something I'd love to apply to every aspect of my life. It's just, okay, this went horribly wrong. How are you going to grow from this? How are you going to be a better cook or a better person from this experience? So that's how I honed my cooking skills. And as for trends, have I kept up with cooking trends? Not really. To some extent, yes. By that I mean, it's kind of like when I try to make those stupid quail egg things. Any friends that I'm ever going to cook for are going to be way more impressed if I make them the best mac and cheese they've ever had in their life, rather than some deconstructed or, if I think of food trends, I think of what I say on Instagram, which is everything that has been filled with cheese, deep fried, and pulled apart for our stretchy enjoyment on Instagram, which is nice to look at. But if I'm feeding people that I care about, making the very best version of something that we all love, I think is way more impressive than like trying to reinvent the wheel. And especially as a home cook, if you're not, a chef that needs to innovate in the space, that needs to be looking for the next big thing, I think it's way more valuable to get a hold of the basics, if you will. Sorry. Thank you.
It's a great question.
Thanks for coming.
You just recently, I mean, there's the video you did for you, which I think just dropped like this week for the perfect bite. But right before that, you did the mac and cheese. You keep talking about making the best mac and cheese ever and making the best version of something. And I'm wondering, like, what's the simplest dish that you've made the best version of? Like, have you taken like a PB&J and like crushed your own peanuts, made my own jam? I baked bread.
Sometimes it's not about that. Like, you could crush your own peanuts, and I bet it's not going to taste better than Jif.
It's going to be trash. I'll tell you right
now. Yeah, I mean,
crumbly peanuts.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like, there are some things that kind of taste better out of a can. I would much rather have a spoonful of Jif because it's half sugar than a spoonful of some artisanal hand ground peanut medley. Inversely, I think that's, or conversely, either way, I think that's the dish that I think that not only do I make the best of anything that I make, it's also the best that I've ever had of this dish is chicken noodle soup. I think I make chicken noodle soup that just can go toe-to-toe with, you could zhuzh up or try to fancy up chicken noodle soup any way you want, and I'll kick the hell out of it because I think that that's one of those dishes that warrants being made slowly and from scratch and with care. Not necessarily the noodles or anything like that, but making stock for chicken noodle soup just changes it in ways that you can't imagine. It has a sweetness to it, and adding things like parsnips and turnips to give dimensionality and maybe a little bit of spiciness to the broth it makes it into something layered and complex that you didn't think it could be. That when I serve it to people, they're like, "Whoa!" Like, I didn't know that you could make that chicken noodle soup could be like this. And that, to me, is the biggest achievement that a home chef can have.
Last question, because then I got to let you go, and I have a million of these. But, looking at this place in Brooklyn, is there, how do you do what you just said at a large scale, right? The chicken noodle soup takes time.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to craft it, and you've got to be patient with it. But now you've got a line out the door because you have 6 million plus followers, and a percentage of them just showed up to eat. How do you scale that?
Well, see, that's where I'm going to be serving the cheese stuffed deep fried thing. That's where that fits in. Yeah. I mean, some of these dishes, like, they're made for the quiet of home with somebody that you love. They're not made for the din of the world. I think that it comes down to giving a shit. If you're going to serve people, serve them something that you really care about and really enjoy. If you're going to cook for yourself, then make sure that it's something that you're learning from or something that you can grow from. Cooking is a universally positive hobby, something that I really wish everybody who can adopt does adopt. Oh boy! Silence the cell phone before you go on stage, folks. I think it's a net positive experience to have in your life, cooking. And it's something that I've been really honored to learn that people are trying out because they've watched my show. So that is the biggest motivator that keeps me going. Yeah.
Perfect spot to end on, man. Dude, thank you so much for being
you so much for having
hanging
me.
out with us. This has been awesome. Thank you guys for being a great audience.
Thank you
asking
guys for
great
coming. I
questions.
really
You were
appreciate it.
wonderful. The book, Binging with Babish, is out now. The channel is out there. Keep an eye out for the restaurant. Anything else we want to tell people about before you go?
Keep cooking. I will if you will.
There we go. Perfect. Make some noise. Andrew Ray, everybody.
Thank you, guys.